Fellow Toastmasters and guests and fellow speech crafters. Today we are going to talk about how to organize your speech, as stated by our Toastmaster of the meeting, Toastmaster Sony. I think in public speaking, in any kinds of speech, it is very important to pay attention to the organization because public speaking is not solely about how you deliver it, how confident you are, on how fluent you sound, but it is also about the message you deliver. Ultimately, what we want to do is to deliver ideas, deliver points, and make the audience actually catch the message. That is why having a very organized speech is super important. Today, this is what we're going to talk about. Get organized. Okay, I'm just going to share some of my experiences in a few slides, and I'm sure that a lot of these things most of us already know, or most of us already applied in our daily lives, in our daily speech practices, or even during this whole speechcraft session so far. But this is just to remind us all over again about how important this is, or maybe you can also get some insights that you might not have heard of. So we start with the why first. Why is it very important for us to have a speech that is organized? Now, first, of course, it will make things easy to understand. At the end of the day, we want the audience to understand what we are saying. If we just keep talking and talking, rambling the whole time, but then there's no structure, at the end of the day, they will get confused. They will have difficult experiences in catching what we said. And then, of course, it will also, when it is easier to understand, help the audience to remember your speech points. It will make you look more credible as well. Oh, this person actually knows what they are talking about because the message is clear. I can see that. Or at the end of the day, too, it will be more enjoyable for us. Because back then, maybe like around 10 years ago or something, I always thought that public speaking was about being such a loudmouth person, being a person who is just confident to speak up on a stage. But there is not necessarily a structure. But I was proven wrong because I see in Toastmasters, and not only actually in Toastmasters, in real lives, a lot of public speakers out there and maybe like politicians or anyone who is able to speak in front of public, they have good structure when they can actually deliver the message. It was seen that they have good structure. So it's not just about confidence. It's not just about the delivery or vocal variety or how to say it. It is also about the structure. Well, before we even get into the structure, what is something that you need to pay attention to is to select your topic. Now, I believe that as topic selection is a completely different topic or a completely different session. There is a how-tos on doing that, the step-by-steps. But then I'm just going to point out the obvious one here that even before we start with the speech organization, we have to know what we want to say. We have to know the whole topic of our speech. Just some inspirational stuff that you can take. You can get some inspirations from reading materials. You like to read novels, you like to read news online, or there are some memes recently that became a trend. That can be your topic. Or you talk with your colleagues, with your families. That can be a speech inspiration. Or maybe you are someone who is expert in particular field that maybe people can relate to, or something that is completely unique that you think, oh, it will be interesting for me to share to the audience. Then, well, use that as your topic. Or maybe daily experiences. My point is there are so many ways that you can do to select your topic. And these are just some of the things, but we will not dig deeper into this. What I'm saying is that before we even get into the speech organization, you have to know what you want to deliver first. Just select one topic. Don't think of more than one topic and try to somehow squeeze that in into a 5 until 7 minute speech, because that will be confusing for the audience. Trying to differentiate two topics at the same time. So just select one main topic, one grand topic. Now, after you do that, you can determine an outline. Now, I feel like this is also can be debatable, because you can determine the outline while you are writing a speech. Everyone has their own style. But for me and for many people, this works for them. If they already decide what the topic is and decide the purpose, then they think of the outline. These are just some of the styles that people have. I know a person, he is a good acquaintance of mine. He doesn't actually determine his outline. That's not his style. He didn't even come up with a script. He immediately come up to the stage, and somehow his speech become very structured, because it's all in his head already. But it's not something that all of us do, and it's not the styles of everyone. So if you can, and if you have the time, why not you determine the outline first? Maybe you want to deliver something in a chronological order, like a story. So it starts with the maybe what happened first, and then some conflicts and some resolutions at the end. It's chronological, time-based order. Or maybe something topical. You decide a main topic, and then there are some subtopics. Or a causal. There is a cause, and then you explain what probably caused that. Problem and solution too, this is quite close to the causal and even comparative. You come up with several ways of doing something, and then you compare the advantages and the disadvantages of choosing those comparisons. So yes, if you can, before you even get into the speech draft, determine your outline. And this also depends on the purpose of your speech, whether you want to inform. Then maybe causal, problem solution, or comparative is something that is closer to your objective. But maybe if you want to inspire, something chronological. But it's up to you. Now we get into how to organize your speech. I always divide the speech body, the whole speech, into three things that we will dissect one by one later on. First one, the opening. We always have the opening. And then the body, and by the end of the day, the closing. In the opening first, we have something called the hook. Or basically, this is just a one or two short sentences that we use to attract the audience's attention. One time I heard someone said that the first 15 seconds of the speech is the most essential part of your speech, because that's when the moment you try to grab the audience attention. Because usually when you have weak opening, the audience will tend to not pay attention more to your speech. So make sure that you have the hook that actually hooks the audience. What can you use? You can start with a startling question that somehow, makes the audience wonder, or a challenging statement can be something that is a little bit controversial and makes the audience listen more. Oh, what he's going to come forward with the speech. Or maybe relevant yet good quotes. Something that, oh, that's inspirational. I would like to hear more. What is this all about? Or even a unique illustration or anecdote, a story basically. But just the point is, make sure that the hook is something short. Remember, we still have the body, we have the closing. So make it short, just one until two sentences, but make it memorable. Now, the things to avoid is, and apologies for a typo, is an apologetic statement. You open your speech, but then you already say, sorry that I'm not confident enough, or sorry for blah, blah, blah. It already weakens your speech. So do not say any apologetic statement. Just say it confidently as best as you can. And anything that is slow moving, because at the end of the day, the hook is something that is short, that is supposedly to hook the audience. So make it short, make it fast, make it confident, and this is my personal taste. Try to avoid a cliche or rhetorical question that doesn't actually require an answer, such as, have you ever blah, 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 or do you think blah, blah, blah? But it doesn't actually require an answer because everyone already knows the answer. I think those kind of hooks are less purposeful. So choose something that is more relevant, something that is more unique, something that is more purposeful. And this is another thing because usually I judge for university speech competitions, try to avoid self-introduction. For example, in Toastmasters, usually the evaluator already introduced yourself and your speech project, so you don't have to do that anymore, unless the speech itself is something that is related to self-introductionary. So yes, try to avoid a self-introduction and use the two use points that I displayed right here. Now you already have the hook and you got the audience attention. Everyone was listening to you. What else? We're still in the introduction part, but perhaps you can elaborate the hook a little bit more. Remember, this is still the introduction, so just elaborate it in a few sentences. And maybe just keep the audience by the edge of their seat, so do not immediately reveal the body or what you're going to say, if that applies. And make it short again. Now, that's the introduction. Let's get into the main points. What are on the main points? And what are to pay attention to in main points? First, think your audience as people with a short attention span. Because, to be honest, maybe in Toastmasters, everyone tries their best to listen to us. It's a very safe environment for us to practice. But then out there, people can just hold their phones, chat with their colleagues or the people next to them. It will be even hard to grab their attention and to make them listen to your speech. So try to make it as easy as possible to digest. But this again depends on the context and the audience demographic. And then maybe develop your points into 3 main points maximum, unless it is even a longer speech. For example, 5 until 7 minute speech, maximum just put up with 3. Don't use more. Use the most important points too. Maybe you have a topic, but then you have a lot of ideas. Don't try to squeeze everything in within a 5 until 7 minute speech. Your time is very limited and you want to convey a message. So choose the most important ones. Elaborate it too after you choose the main points, because maximum 3, just elaborate it in a short sentence. And maybe if it's even shorter, you don't have to come up with several sub points. Instead of using sub points, you just use a short elaboration, what that means, and then maybe some supporting elements. And the question lingers, what are the supporting elements? Those could be statistics, quotes, personal stories or anecdotes, facts, and visual aids. Yes, you can use statistics, of course, especially when your speech is something related to research. But then perhaps something that I also have heard of so often is that instead of saying that 14% of the population tend to choose A instead of B, just say 1 out of 10 people or 5 out of 10 people, 2 out of 5 people. That is easier to digest. Quotes too, you can always use those. Personal stories or anecdotes. The thing is that oftentimes it is difficult for us to dig deeper into our personal stories that relate to the speech. So maybe you can also use someone else's experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be yours. And then after the body, of course, we have the conclusion. It is still important. I see some people, they have a strong hook. The introduction was well put, and then the body was good too, but the conclusion, okay. It was weak. Now, I believe that conclusion by the end of the day is still important to repeat the message in just short sentences, and especially if the speech is a little bit difficult to digest, try to draw the lines amongst the main points to see actually the clear connections. That's the use of a conclusion. But then, after the conclusion, it just doesn't stop there. To actually fulfill the purpose of the speech, use a call to action, something to try to, for example, if you want to persuade the audience by the end of the day, try to put up with just one sentence to say, so fellow Toastmasters and guests, ladies and gentlemen, next time you want to buy a new clothes, try to maybe use the ones that you already have. So something to emphasize the purpose of your speech. And a closing remark. If you want to make the audience to still remember your speech, use something that is memorable and say it with confidence. The hook was strong, but then the closing should be strong as well. Okay, by the end of the day, speech organization is very important in our speech, not only the delivery. Remember to always pay attention to the hook, introduction, the body, and the closing remarks.